It started on a night like any other. Rain tapped against the windows of my small apartment, each drop echoing in the silent room like tiny footsteps. I had stayed up late again, scrolling through forums filled with stories of the unexplained. That's when I first saw it. I was browsing a thread about missing children in a small town no one remembers, the type of place you'd never visit unless you had to. People whispered about a tall, unnaturally thin figure, faceless, always wearing a black suit. They called it Slender Man. The posts were old, some dated back 10 years. Pictures were grainy, unsettling, but something about them made my stomach turn. The figure always seemed to be just beyond the edge of the frame, standing among trees or watching from the shadows of a playground. I thought it was just an urban legend, a creepypasta meant to scare gullible people. I laughed at myself for feeling uneasy, but the laugh caught in my throat. Something about the way the shadows moved in the corner of my room made me pause. I convinced myself it was just my imagination. Hours passed. I closed my laptop, but sleep wouldn't come. The room felt colder, darker, though the radiator was on. That's when I heard it. Soft, deliberate tapping on my window. At first I thought it was the rain, but then one tap became 2, then 3, in a rhythm that didn't match the storm. My heart thumped in my chest. I forced myself to look slowly through the blinds. Nothing, only the empty streets, slick with rain. I tried to laugh again, louder this time, but it died in my throat. And then I saw it. A tall figure, impossibly thin, standing at the edge of the street beneath the flickering street lamp. Its face was blank, featureless, like a mask of smooth white porcelain. Its limbs seemed unnaturally long, moving in ways that made my brain refuse to comprehend. And yet, somehow, it looked directly at me. I blinked. It was gone. I told myself I was dreaming. I told myself it was a trick of the shadows, a fleeting reflection, but my stomach knew the truth before my mind did. Something was watching, something was patient. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't even leave my room. Every creak of the building sounded like footsteps. Every shadow seemed to stretch toward me, reaching with impossible length. My phone vibrated, a message from a number I didn't recognize. "Don't look outside." I froze. My fingers shook as I scrolled. No more messages came. The room felt smaller, the air thicker. And then the tapping started again, softer this time, like someone tracing their fingers along the glass. I didn't move. I couldn't move. I sat frozen on the edge of my bed, staring at the window, heart hammering so loudly I was certain the figure outside could hear it. Minutes passed, or maybe hours, I couldn't tell. Time had lost all meaning. The rain had stopped, but the night seemed heavier, denser, pressing against the walls. Then I noticed something strange. The shadows in my room were moving, not with the light, not with me, but on their own. They stretched toward the corner where my laptop still glowed faintly. My reflection in the dark screen wasn't quite right. For a split second I thought I saw something behind me, just outside my peripheral vision. A tall, dark silhouette, arms impossibly long, swaying slightly. I spun around. Empty room. I tried to convince myself it was exhaustion, lack of sleep, stress. Anything but the truth. That thing was real, and it was in my apartment, or at least near enough to watch. Hours passed, or maybe seconds. My mind was a blur of fear and adrenaline. Every creak of the floorboards sounded deliberate. Every whisper of wind against the window sounded like a voice I couldn't understand, calling my name. And then my phone vibrated again. Another message from the same unknown number. "Look behind you." I froze, every nerve screaming at me to run, to flee, but my body refused to obey. Slowly, as if moving through thick molasses, I turned my head. Nothing. Just the dark, empty corner of my room. But then I noticed something new. My reflection in the window didn't match me. In the glass, my eyes were hollow, black voids staring back at me. Behind me, a figure, impossibly tall, featureless black suit blending into the night, its arms stretched unnaturally, reaching toward me. And yet my reflection didn't move, didn't blink. It simply stared. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My lungs burned, my throat ached, and then I realized the figure in the window wasn't the same as the one in my reflection. The reflection's arms were even longer, moving in ways reality couldn't allow. Panic overwhelmed me. I ran from my bed, colliding with furniture, trying to reach the door. I needed to leave, to escape, to get outside where there might be light, people, something. But the hallway stretched impossibly far. My apartment had changed. The walls elongated, twisted, dark corners forming where there shouldn't be any. And always, just behind me, I could feel it, watching, patient, waiting. My phone buzzed one more time. "Don't leave." I dropped it. It clattered across the floor, screen shattered, but the messages were burned into my mind. "Don't leave. Don't look. Stay." I stumbled backward, my back hitting the wall. That's when I heard it, soft, deliberate, dragging footsteps. Not mine, not from outside, but inside my own apartment. Slowly, closer, closer. I couldn't see it, couldn't turn my head without risking... What? Death? Madness? I didn't know. I only knew fear. Pure, unrelenting fear. And then the whisper, barely audible. "You can't hide." I covered my ears, tried to scream, tried to run again, but it didn't matter. The air around me felt alive, pressing down, pushing me toward the center of the room. The shadows weren't shadows anymore. They had substance, creeping along the floor, climbing the walls, wrapping around me. I struggled, flailing, but my limbs felt heavy, unresponsive, as if reality itself was against me. And then silence. For a moment I thought it was over. Maybe it had gone. Maybe I had imagined it all, but then I felt it, a presence cold, inhuman, inches from my face. I dared to open my eyes. The tall, faceless figure stood there, closer than possible, its limbs bent in ways no human body could, stretching, writhing, almost alive. And it leaned toward me, impossibly slow, until I could see nothing, just the void where its face should have been, endless blackness that seemed to pull at my very soul. I couldn't move. My body refused. My mind screamed, but the scream never left my lips. The faceless figure loomed above me, impossibly tall, stretching beyond the ceiling, its presence consuming the room. Shadows writhed around it, forming shapes that should not exist. Elongated fingers, distorted faces, mouths opening and closing silently, whispering in a language my brain refused to translate. I tried to close my eyes, tried to block it out, but darkness wasn't safe. The shadows were inside me now, crawling beneath my skin, tickling, prying, whispering. My own reflection stared back at me again, but now it moved on its own, mimicking me only in the wrong ways. Arms bending backward, eyes black and hollow, mouth stretching in a silent scream. The figure reached toward me. I could feel its presence in my chest, in my lungs, as if the air itself were being pulled into its grasp. Panic surged and I threw myself backward, slamming into the wall, but it didn't matter. The room stretched, warped, impossible angles forming where none should exist. The windows turned black, reflecting nothing but an endless void. And then the voice. Not through my ears, but through my mind. Slow, deliberate, cold. You cannot run. You belong to me now. I felt myself being drawn forward toward the impossible height of the figure. Each step I took felt like sinking into ice. The shadows twisted around my feet, pulling me down, stretching me, making me feel simultaneously heavy and weightless. My hands clawed at the floor, at the walls, at the air itself, but nothing could stop it. I caught a glimpse, just a flash, of something moving outside the window. A child? No, a figure, thin and faceless, staring at me. I knew, somehow, that this wasn't the first and it wouldn't be the last. The stories, the disappearances, the whispers online, they were all true, and now I was part of it. My mind began to shatter. Reality and nightmare collided. The walls became the forest from the photos I had seen online. Trees stretched endlessly, black trunks against a sky that swirled with shadow. The streetlights flickered into strange, unrecognizable shapes. And there it was, again, the faceless figure, now outside, reaching through the window, its arms bending in ways that defied physics, fingers grasping for me. I screamed. My voice finally came echoing through the distorted space, but it was swallowed by the shadows, and then I saw them, others like me, silhouettes, faceless, lost in the void, standing silently, waiting. The faceless figure extended one impossibly long arm toward me, and the shadows surged, pulling me into the void. The last thing I saw before everything went black was its face, or rather the absence of it, an endless, empty void, staring into mine, consuming everything I was, everything I had been. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in my room anymore. Or maybe I was, but nothing was real. The walls, the ceiling, even the floor had dissolved into shadows. Shapes twisted and swirled, reaching, grasping, whispering secrets I couldn't understand. My own reflection stared back at me from every surface, but none of them were me. The faceless figure was gone. Or maybe it had never left. I could feel it everywhere, in the air, in the shadows, in the quiet thrum of my own heartbeat, a slow, deliberate presence, patient and eternal, watching, waiting. I tried to speak, to scream, but only silence came. The void had swallowed my voice, leaving me with nothing but fear and mori. My thoughts spiraled, unconnected, repeating warnings I couldn't ignore. Don't look, don't leave, you belong. And then I realized something horrifying. I was no longer alone. Behind me, faint shapes began to emerge from the darkness, thin, faceless, waiting, just like it. I had become part of the story, part of the endless night that swallowed those who looked too long, who sought the truth, who dared to see. Somewhere beyond reason, I felt a hand, or a shadow that acted like a hand, brush against my shoulder. A whisper, cold and unrelenting. It's your turn now. The shadows closed in. The shapes reached. The faceless figures leaned. The void swallowed me entirely. My name, my past, my fear, all dissolved into darkness. And the night continued, endless, patient, eternal. Somewhere, someone else would read about it, hear it, see it, and the story would reach them, and I would be there, always watching, waiting, patient.